How's it going, guys? So I'm here with your Smackdown review, and well, there we go. Goldberg and Roman Reigns is done. The match is off. Roman's been pulled. He's probably sick. Who knows if he has you know what, or is at risk for it. So we're still getting Mania. It has apparently already been taped. It's going to be 2 nights. We already know about this. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. They're actually going to give us this backwoods version of WrestleMania. This ghetto ass version of WrestleMania in an empty arena. These goofballs, I'm sorry, I really have to say it. I know it's not the talent's fault. They're being instructed. Probably McMahon wants it this way. I never want to have to directly blame the talent, especially when they're working under these types of conditions. But, man, like, they're playing to the crowd when there is no crowd. And on this show, they keep on doing all these jokes like, oh, there's no audience, and they're like talking to the audience and doing things. Okay, we're gonna get to it. They're pretending that there's an audience. There are a lot, a bit too much to the point where it's almost a bit scary, like a bit like mental. And I find that very concerning. And we're gonna get to it here in this review. So let's start off. We've got Bayley and Sasha. They're cutting this promo. And it's probably the worst acted promos normal. And I see like the attempts with Bayley, like she tries to do that little like stutter to make it kind of like it's a more casual conversation. And I've noticed that this is something that they have tried to do during the PG era. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but they do it like they try to, oh yeah, well, and like they try to do that. And it makes the promo even worse. And I feel like it is an attempt to make a scripted promo, an overly scripted promo, try to seem more natural. But in turn, it makes it feel even more wooden, makes it even worse than it would originally be if they didn't format the promo in such a way. So this gets Lacey Evans to come out, and this thing that Lacey does where she goes nasty, it's the dumbest thing. This girl is a Marine. This is probably one of the most prestigious types of jobs of employment that you can do in this country, in the entire world. It's something to be enormously proud of. It's something to be admired. And so there's a lot going for Lacey, this single mom that's a Marine, and they're going to, reduce her, to relegate her to this role of dressing up as some fancy, to-do type of girl, and it's so lame. And, a few months back, you had people saying, oh, I'm really falling in love with this character. Like, what do you like about this character? The Southern Belle? Oh, this is such a great gimmick. I mean, this is like The Undertaker. This is like Hogan. This is like Macho Man. Like people, you need to up your standards a bit. I mean, you've got people talking about how AEW is putting out some tremendous shows. You got people even saying that these shows are good and fun. Guys, up your standards. Get some, like, quality assurance in your mind. Like, you have to be able to look at this and say that this is ridiculous, that it's not good. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I feel like it kind of reaches a certain point where there's just no conceivable way a person could be saying that this garbage is good and being honest about it. I kind of feel sometimes like people are so sick of thinking that it's bad, instead of stop watching it altogether. They rather just say, oh, it's getting better. Yeah, oh, see, there's a character. Lacey has a gimmick, but it's like the worst possible gimmick that they could give to her. It's so unnatural. And even if that is something that she wants to do, they're not, booking her in the proper way. This character is not being fleshed out. She says some of the most stereotypical, Southern phrases, nasty. And it sounds so dumb. It sounds so dated. This is such a dated gimmick. It really, truly is. This is like 1970s, early 1980s NWA type of stuff. This is like the type of stuff that like Jim Cornette like goes gaga over. And I think he'd even probably turn his nose up to it. This old-fashioned, old-school Southern wrestling type of gimmick where they're like acting super Southern, even though that's not really who she is. You know, she's tough and gritty. She's a Marine. You know, like the way how she would dress during the matches that she wrestled in NXT. Like, why doesn't she still dress like that? Like that old school, like, you know, with the World War II type of vibe, you know. Seriously, I don't get why they take away like the few elements that do work with certain people in NXT. It seems like they completely strip them of those gimmicks. They kind of just minimalize them to the point where they're nobodies. Not like it was tremendous in NXT, but you would think on the main roster, okay, here we could build off. Because now supposedly the big boys, the WWE main roster creative now is in control of your characters. So you would think that would be superstardom, but it seems like it's the direct opposite. And people will say that NXT is great. There's no characters in NXT. If you're saying there's characters, you're lying, because there's not. I've seen the clips of NXT. There's promising talents. Like, you've got a few different types of guys down there that seem like they have promise, but those are not the guys they push. They rather go for someone like Johnny Gargano. It's total nonsense, but this is the way how they go about it. So anyway, that's enough about Lacey. Needless to say, people like this gimmick. They like her, and I'm not saying I don't like her. Attractive girl, talented, obviously, a decent wrestler. She's got the prestige of being a Marine. There's a lot going for her. But the way she's being presented right now, and that's what it is. It's the presentation is piss poor. And then Tamina comes out. And, with Tamina, like, they were kind of making like, oh, she's a monster again. First of all, she was the lackey for Nia Jax. They had her lose almost every single match they had her wrestling. She was the fall girl for Nia. I remember like when they went toe-to-toe in the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, right, in like 2018. They had them standing in the ring together, and it was actually a pretty like promising visual. Like, oh, these are two, hosses when it comes to women. They're going to really, beat the crap out of each other. This is going to be, and then it ended up just being a tag team, and I'm like, okay. Remember I even said that? I was like, okay, well, we're not going to get the match, but we're going to get the tag team. So I'm like, okay, they could be a little dominant here. They could have fun with this, and it was like one of the worst. Of course, like, how is it that when you have something promising, it has to end up being the worst possible way that they could go about doing something? Like The Fiend, like Bray Wyatt in general, like just about everybody on the roster, it always has to turn out that way. It's always got to be the worst possible way that they could go in the direction with that specific talent or wrestler. And, when you're dead set on not making stars and you've verbally said that, it's kind of no surprise anymore. So Tamina comes out. She attacks Lacey Evans. You had Naomi out there, but she like slid out of the ring, I believe. Then Bayley and Sasha quickly start attacking her in the corner, and I believe Tamina also attacked them too or something. I don't really even remember. But, Tamina be like, okay, I'm all for her being a monster, but we all know this is going to go the same way. It's take number 52 for Tamina, just like it's been the same way for all different talents on the roster. Oh, we're going to get it right this time with her. Just you watch. No, you're going to just basically, first of all, number one, she's not going to win the match. Number two, right after this, they're going to go back to forgetting that Tamina even exists. Because, she was, Superfly's daughter. So, we don't like Superfly anymore. We don't like to talk about that guy. So, we're going to... So that's why it's like, if you don't like her and there's going to be something, holding her back, that's not even her fault, then, like, what's the point of even doing anything with the girl? I don't get it. Like, why put her in there, give her a push, just so you could start knocking her down again? Because they've done it to her every single time. And she is imposing. She obviously looks more dominant than the other girls. If you ask me, when she's standing in there with everybody else, yeah, I'd even say that Tamina supersedes Lacey Evans for who I see as a star in there. And that's basically what I visually see. I don't know if everyone else is seeing it, but Tamina has the look. She definitely would be probably the most believable champion to be a dominant champion and tower over all the women, because she actually does. And that, oh my god, like, Bayley it's like she's transforming into a Karen. I mean, honestly, with that hairstyle, like, she cut it even shorter this time. Like, why is she going so short? Why do certain girls think that they look so good with that super short hair? And I feel like she's purposely trying to do that. And it's like the same way that she keeps on getting a microphone put in her hand. I think someone's actually telling her that her hair looks good that way, so she went even shorter. Like, it's like the shorter hair on her didn't look horrible. Now it's crossed into horrible territory. Now she really looks like she wants to speak with the manager. Now she really looks like she's going to give it to that manager and really complain wholeheartedly about wanting to return an item or something like that. I don't think you can return that item now, Karen. I mean, Bayley, because, that's not an essential retailer. So I don't think you could return. Okay. I'm just saying, that should be her like, her gimmick right there. Karen, like, seriously, like, change her name. Like, Bayley, like, you're not going to get over it with a name like that ever. Come on, let's be perfectly honest. That would be way better. And then they could, like, I don't know, maybe Lacey could give her a new gimmick. She could be a store clerk, right? Put her at the returns counter. And, like, Bayley, or in this case, Karen, can go and try to return something to her. I don't know. It's just, hey, isn't that better? Isn't that better than anything you saw right here? I mean, now that's something you tune in for, and all we're talking about is returning something, at like a counter, I don't know, make it a Target or a Walmart or something like that. We could have some fun with it. She's already got the look, right? So that'd be the perfect character for her. And the other funny thing is, meanwhile, while this is all going on, we have to pretend like Dana Brooke wasn't just announced in this match last week, but, oh, she's sick too, so she can't make it. So, Rey Mysterio, Dana Brooke, Roman Reigns, all these people getting knocked off, the list, and they're not going to be involved in Mania. And I get it, they taped it beforehand. I don't know why they couldn't just, edit out the mentions, or we're going to get to that. Give me 1 second. But anyway, Drew Gulak defeated Naka Murphy. They have Michael Cole, on commentary here. And, this was the theme throughout the night. He kept on having different wrestlers, with him on commentary doing color. So you had Sami Zayn here. I still can't wrap my head around Drew Gulak being involved in this position and, like, fighting for a match for Daniel Bryan and training Daniel Bryan and having to train. Daniel Bryan is taking advice. I'm not going to go through this whole thing again, but we're talking about a guy who beat Batista, Randy Orton, and Triple H in the same night. He tapped out. He tapped out Batista at Mania. And this guy, he has to take advice from Drew Gulak, a 205 liver. A guy that when he appeared on the show, basically 10% of the audience actually knew who this was. They even had Sami Zayn bury him in a promo, calling him a nobody, for God's sakes. So Sami Zayn's on commentary, fairly decent job. Like I said, this is the best thing about this whole, like, Naka Murphy, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn thing. Like, I get it, like, they have no idea what to do with these guys. They haven't a clue. So they're kind of trying to put, like, almost, I feel like they're almost like refugees looking for a home. So like they just like come to Sami Zayn. It's kind of like the land of misfit toys kind of like faction here. And it's not working, but Sami Zayn is trying very hard to try to make it work. And that's the credit to him. As much garbage as I've given Sami Zayn, I've also provided him with enough praise. I said it. Since they've been giving him that mic more and more, he's been developing a character, and I give him all the credit. He's improved so much that this guy actually has some value to him now. But this Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan match at Mania, this Daniel Bryan came back from, from a career-threatening injury. He was in a world title match last year defending his title. And the last year, it's been a total mess. I mean, this guy hasn't, they haven't done anything with Daniel Bryan. He's like wasted away into nothing. We move on to Dolph Ziggler and Otis fighting in the back, and nice job trying to avoid, unnecessary touching. You've got all these referees surrounding Otis, trying to hold them back and everything. Like 10 referees all grouped up. Yeah, great social distancing there, guys. Like, it's like they're in a whole nother dimension. They're doing this show. They don't care what else is going on in Florida. Never mind the reports on spring break and, all like everything is like against the judgment of Vince McMahon to not do these shows. And, he's even had talent fall sick. And because Vince McMahon doesn't believe in being sick and he finds it offensive when people sneeze and cough, it's like that's not like that hasn't been basic human function since the beginning of man. And, but Vince likes to pretend otherwise. So, we're going to keep on. The show must go on. Vince, the show must go on, McMahon. It doesn't matter. The show has to go on no matter what. It doesn't matter if there's a global pandemic going on. The show's got to go on. Even when all your talent is falling by the wayside, this is what we get. Oh, man. So we get it. We got a match now with Ziggler and Otis. I mean, okay, it's a grudge match and everything. I didn't expect this to be a Mania match, but they don't really have a lot of other options here. I guess it will be decent. I mean, we see you've got you've got a character in there, They could have built this so much better, but of course, just like everything else, it's garbage. They've got comedic gold with Otis. This is a guy who's willing to give it his all, but they won't let him give it his all. Then we've got Elias in, one of these extremely edited segments because they could do this right now, just like the Matt Hardy thing over on Dynamite with Chris Jericho and him teleporting from side to side. Elias sings a song, he does a joke, as you know how much I like Elias, and I've been praising him now for years on this channel. But the whole thing of him saying, the audience here, it's a beautiful line. It's like, Morrison and Miz did that. Guys, please stop pretending like there's an audience. It's not funny. We know it's an empty. Oh, there's a beautiful audience. Get it? There's no audience. I mean, like, this is a joke. This is a horse that's been beaten to death already, and they're only in like the third week of doing this. Yeah, we get it. We get it. There's no audience. And you're pretending like there is an audience. That's so funny. I'm dead. I mean, really, it's hilarious. Come on, guys. Like, that's not funny. It might have been... It's like, first of all, to do a joke that obvious is just lame. It's such an obvious joke. Like, just... When a joke is that easy, it's better off that you don't say it. Sometimes obvious humor could be funny, but in this case, it's like, it's something that, they should talk about, implement it into the real world, discuss what's going on, but, hey, we're in an empty arena, it's like, they're not even having fun with the fact they're in an empty arena. It's just lame jokes. Hey, we're in an empty arena. Like, come on, but we don't want to make like we're in one. let's just, you know, say, oh, there's no people here. Well, what a great crowd. Like, honestly, that's the best you could do. That's the humor that they're, and I know Elias didn't want to say that. I know that that was written into his promo. Corbin comes up, he beats him up, he's up on the stand. First of all, like, I don't even know why he's up on this stand to begin with. Like, if there's no audience, like, there's no reason for him to even be up there. Because, like, the whole point of that would have been for him to tower over the audience. I kind of feel like this is a segment that they had written for, you know, for this feud. When WrestleMania was still planned to be in Tampa. But because, you know, obviously what we have going on right now, it's like they still decided to go through with this segment anyway. So Corbin knocks him off this this platform, and he goes plummeting below. An obvious edit in there, and he whacks on the cement. So Elias is dead, which I guess is worse than getting sick in this. Like, I mean, honestly, like, that's a bit over the top to say the least. You know, him throwing him off there, and there's, like, supposedly no mat. Like, is he really expected to come back in a week and be okay? I mean, sometimes there's just a point of going too far, and that was definitely a point of going too far with it. Alexa Bliss defeated Asuka. I gotta say that, like, I actually enjoyed this match, and it was not because of the wrestling. It was because of everything else that was going on. First of all, Nikki is like, I found that hilarious. She, like, doesn't know what to do on commentary, and her accent, and she's just, come on, oh, can she win this match? Oh, I think she could win. And, like, you know, she's touching Michael Cole. Michael Cole's like, why are you touching? And you can tell, like, it was a shoot. She's also then saying, like, this match is for the tag titles, and then Michael Cole saying, well, it's a singles match, so it can't be for the tag titles. And she goes, oh, what I mean to say is that we're going to eventually go for the tag titles. Like, oh my God, it was such a cluster, you know what? And it was a dumpster fire, but it was hilarious, and it was entertaining. You know, from a shoot perspective, it was gold. Honestly, I was laughing at this one, like, wholeheartedly, because, like, Nikki is put in the position where she's just a total opposite of Alexa, and this could be a fun dynamic if they knew how to do it, but instead it's just like an honest-to-goodness mismatching. It's not, you could tell it's, like, really not done on purpose. It's just like they're throwing her with her, so hopefully some of the shine could rub off on her. You know, instead of doing the crazy girl gimmick, which would, you know, is something that's worked throughout the years. You know, it worked for Victoria. You know, it worked for a few others, Luna Vachon, you know, so, you know, but with her, they ripped the gimmick away. But it's almost like she's still trying to do the gimmick, but, like, only going halfway with it, so it's almost just like she's an excited Valley girl. And, you know, she was just all over the place, and Asuka's just dancing around and doing these like, Asuka, I will give her that. You know, I kind of take back what I said last week, like, how long could they go on with this, like, meme-type Asuka behavior? I've got, like, a feeling it's, like, Asuka's, like, at the point where she kind of knows that they have, like, no future plans for her. And once, you know, they take the tag titles off of the Kabuki Warriors, like, they've got no other direction for her. So she's just kind of going all out here. She's just kind of having fun. It's all about having fun, Maggle, right? If JBL was here, I'm sure he'd be saying that. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. It's just Asuka going all out, screaming at the top of her lungs, screaming in random Japanese phrases. She's dancing around, making fun of, like, I don't know, but this whole thing was just, wow, it was crazy. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like this was just total, like, unscripted madness. And I don't know if they wanted to just see how, like, completely insane things could get, but, like, this is a perfect example of, like, when they just let people go sometimes, it could be 10 times better. And it was. I like, Nikki just being the super awkward type of girl. Like, if they let her do more of that, I think that would be entertaining, because it was really like, I get it. People will probably say this was horrible commentary, but from that perspective, when you look at it, like, the fact that she made a total meme out of herself, like, that part of it was good. I just feel like they're not going to be able to replicate that magic again. You know, this probably, you know, after this, it's going to go back to them. They might do the moment of bliss, you know, to an empty audience again, you know. But I really did like Cole's reactions. He says, "Why do you keep touching me?" and all that. And he goes like, like you basically told her to get like F off and go hug Alexa Bliss. Roman Reigns and Triple H's match at WrestleMania. They're building this whole thing. And as this show is airing, technically Mania's already been taped. Like, I don't know if they were really lazy here. Like, the match had been announced canceled before they aired this. Before they aired SmackDown. Why did they not edit it and just, you know, throw a thing in here, or just completely not show this? Like, you're hyping a match that's not going to happen. At that point, it's false advertising. If you're catering to the marks, if you're catering to the internet fans, everyone already knows that the match is not happening. So you're making us sit here watching something totally worthless. You're building to something that's never going to happen. And at this point, it probably will never happen. You know, I guess whenever, you know, they decide to go fly to Saudi Arabia next, that, you know, that maybe it will happen then. After this, Triple H cuts a promo for, once again, for a match that will never happen. This was like totally worthless. Talking about Triple H, you know, because he faced Goldberg and Reigns. So like, oh wow, you know, everything that Triple H says, it's like we have to, you know, like the match is not happening. Why did this even air? They didn't have anything else to show, I guess. So like they just figured they'd keep it in there, I suppose. Like they couldn't just shoot a quick interview with Braun Strowman, who's gonna be like, you know, Braun and Goldberg. I guess it will be interesting, but it's not Roman Reigns and Goldberg. To me, the dynamic is gone. I don't get the same thing from Braun that I get from Roman Reigns. You know, it's not the same type of presence. Seeing them stand in the ring together, you know, like Reigns and Goldberg feels right to me. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a different feeling when I see them in the ring together. But, like, how about this? Like, I know we're in a tight spot here, but once again, I can't help but repeat myself. Why is Mania not just postponed? Now they're just going to do, okay, Braun, you're up. Obviously, we know that Braun is not going to win the title. I'll be very surprised if he does. Because, you know, this is the guy that shows up late. This is the guy that we always pretend like he's just about to get over the full way, but never does and probably never will. I just can't see it. Like, dropping the title to Sami Zayn, okay, albeit a handicap match, you know, and then he's just going to, all of a sudden, this guy's just worthy of facing Goldberg for the Universal title. Like, okay. Anyway, Mandy Rose is feeling bad for Otis backstage. Dolph says he went a little too far by showing Otis the pictures last week, and blah, blah, you know, kind of like, who really cares? Honestly, like, who cares? Like, this is so minimal, and you're looking at this, and, like, just how garbage this company is, and just how garbage wrestling is, and you know, you get these people marking out over Dynamite. You know, okay, you know, you know, and they've got the same type of show going on. It's the same level of pathetic, and people are praising it like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but it ain't. Bray Wyatt cuts a promo in the Firefly Funhouse, and ever since Vince Russo had Ben Hameen, from his Raw Smackdown review, I watched the podcast, and he talked about, you know, this really is a cheap setup, and it was really noticeable when they had the blue wall in the back. Like, this is just some, like, you know, you could have had some type of high school AV squad kind of set this garbage up. Like, it's basically just like dividers, like pieces of a wall, you know, and they just hang some pictures on it. Like, there's no thought. Like, they're not really building a set. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I've probably seen more impressive sets built in a high school auditorium. No joke. Like, low effort. And I can't unsee it now that he said, like, for WWE, like, just think of, like, how low production that is versus some of the things that we used to get. You know what I mean? You think of, like, some of the old school entrances and set pieces that we used to have, and, like, just how much, better it was, and how they would spare no expense, and you don't get that anymore. And, you get the cheap dollar store stuff, try to save money wherever you can, I guess. So, I kind of liked how this was a bit more crazy. I like, how he was kind of making the shake, and, he's mixing self-loathing and all this, and rage and resentment. And then he puts the rabbit inside the blender. He's screaming for help, and, like, he blends it together and he drinks it, and he says it has one side effect. And I will say that was pretty well done. It's kind of underwhelming in a way. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, all things considered, like Cena and The Fiend. And I kind of really feel like we're at a point right now where there's no saving The Fiend, even if he goes over Cena at this point. I just kind of feel like even when that happens, they're gonna have no direction for him. Like, honestly, where does The Fiend go after this? What are they gonna do with him after he beats Cena? Like, honestly, like, we all know how this ends. We've seen this story before. And even though they're gonna try to rewrite history and have now Bray Wyatt go over to try to right the wrongs for when, everyone complained back in the day, and I even felt the same way. It was the right time for Wyatt to go over. That should have been the year that he won the world title. That should have been the year when, he reached that peak where he became more over than he ever would be. And that did not happen. But, decent segment, I suppose. Best thing on the show. I don't know, but I will say, the Nikki Asuka stuff was pretty entertaining to me. So, I mean, that's how hilarious I found it. I don't know, but I guess from, like, a produced standpoint and not, like, accidental humor, I suppose that, yeah, the Wyatt thing was probably the best. And then in the main event, we get the New Day and the Usos in a match to decide who Morrison and Miz are going to face at Mania. The Usos versus New Day. This is probably their 536th match. Nobody wins. Miz and Morrison interrupt. They were on commentary prior to this. And, you gotta love this. Michael Cole stands up. He says he's getting, so at least they did that. He's getting word from the back that, from management or whatever he said, that, they're not going to face either team. And they've done this before, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a go hard here when it comes to grammar, but seriously, think about this for a minute when they say this in WWE. You're not facing either team. So if we take that in a grammatical sense, if we take that in a literal sense, which is really the only way it could be applied, that means that they're not going to be facing the Usos or New Day. Then Michael Cole says, because you're going to be facing both the New Day and the Usos. So let's just break this down. I know this kind of sounds, oh, you're being a smart here, Brad, and you're just like, I have to, I'm sorry, I have to, like, make this little criticism here. Not being a smart, it's just saying just how stupid it is in wrestling sometimes like this. Michael Cole is saying that they're not going to face either team. So they're going to face both teams. So first they aren't, and then they are? What? Like, okay, you know what I mean? So that doesn't really change anything. But it just sounds stupid. Like, anyone who's not familiar with that way, how they usually do those types of matches when there's a DQ, and then they punish the heels by putting them in the match with both face teams. An outsider listening to that is going to say, you know, what is he, a moron? Like what does that mean? Anyway, guys, there's your review. WrestleMania is going to be a complete dumpster fire. It's going to be a joke. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be a waste of time. I don't even know. Like, they can't even edit their own show. They can't even be bothered to edit their own show for Mania and, you know, and announce the correct matches that are actually going to be on the show. Instead, we already have the show shot, so let's just send it out like that. Like, okay, if we're already going to have all the wrestlers there and risk getting infected and all this stuff, and wrestlers are already getting sick, okay, can we at least take a few moments to edit the show? State-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art editing equipment and everything. You know, all these fancy cameras and computers, and, you know, we get like a match that a few days prior to this airing is still showing up on here in like numerous segments on here. Not only do we have a match, and they're promoting the match throughout the show, and they're talking about how Roman Reigns and Goldberg are going to be there next week face to face. Unless they just left that in there because they're hoping that people are going to still tune in because they don't want to say Braun Strowman, because they know that probably less people are going to tune into that. So did that have something to do with it? Maybe. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the review. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell so you get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons, and guys, I hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you next time.